2 weeks ago, I made a video displaying both Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese's abilities and compared them to find out who is actually the better player. However, since then, Angel Reese has won Rookie of the Month while breaking the double-double record, which is very impressive and has made the Rookie of the Year race a whole lot more interesting. Although there have been way too many disingenuous arguments favoring Angel being a more impactful player, and you can obviously tell by the way this misinformation is conveyed that there is a deeper level of hate for Caitlin or just flat out racism towards her, but that is a whole nother video. I went into a deep dive and figured out that the Rookie of the Year is voted the same exact way that the MVP is, and it's not necessarily just who the better player is, it is typically whose team would be in a worse position without them. So let's take a look at these numbers. Shout out Thomas, also known as the Audacity of Trope, for making this video possible. While Angel Reese's double-double streak is very impressive, the streak is built mainly on defensive rebounds and points, which the Chicago Sky are very bad in those areas. Matter of fact, they're both dead last in both effective field goal percentage and true shooting percentage, which they were 7th and 3rd last year, and at the rim, even with Cardoso and Angel Reese on paper being the best big duo in the WNBA, the Chicago Sky are dead last at the rim percentage. In case you are new to watching women's basketball, there is only 12 teams in the WNBA, so put together how bad that is. Let's take a look at Angel Reese's individual numbers. So she is shooting 70% of her shots and hitting 50% of them at the rim, which is very good obviously. However, she is shooting 20% of her shots from mid-range and only hitting 19% of them, and then shooting the rest of her shots from 3, which she is only hitting 25% of them. Additionally, a full 20% of her shots have been blocked. Matter of fact, she's the most blocked player in the NBA. Yes, they actually do track that, which I believe if this was Caitlin Clark, it would obviously be talked about way more than it is. Moving on to Caitlin Clark, her biggest strengths have translated to the team's improvement over the last year, with Indiana Fever's effective field goal percentage moving from 6th to 4th and the true shooting percentage from 8th to 5th. Additionally, their assist ratio from 11th to 6th, and of course the pace from 11th to 7th. Now granted, they did drop from 7th to 8th in rebounding as compared to last year, but their rebounding percentage is actually higher because this year the Fever are making more amount of threes at a higher percentage, which ultimately makes the possibility of a rebound lessen. Even with Caitlin being in a shooting slump these past few games, her gravity and spacing have done so much, and that is what really matters in this race. The quote-unquote fans of Angel Reese have been using advanced stats such as box plus minus and win shares to determine who the more impacting player is. Let me set the record straight, both of these stats are heavily team favored. The Indiana Fever were the worst team in the WNBA last season, which is why they got the #1 pick in the first place. That combined with the fact that Caitlin Clark played 35 out of the possible 40 minutes per game, of course she's going to have a negative box plus minus. If you don't believe me, let's take a look at arguably the greatest player to ever touch a basketball, LeBron James. LeBron James has a negative box plus minus in the finals despite being a top 3 or 2 NBA finals performer of all time. This argument has been disingenuously used without proper context, specifically by this page right here to skew casual fans' opinions on advanced stats. Keep in mind these stats were never mentioned before in the Rookie of the Year. Off rating, which is easily one of the worst stats to compare individual players, has been used in this Rookie of the Year debate by media and casual fans, because even up to this point, Angels really doesn't have anything over Caitlin in traditional stats besides rebounding. But if you take a deeper dive, over the last 10 games, Fever's off rating is significantly higher, from 101.8 to 104.9. The Sky also have a worse off rating this year, which remains even true if you count the last 10 games, which is 101.3 to 99.1. Now let's take a look at the only critique of Caitlin's game, the turnovers. The Fever have actually improved their overall turnover percentage from last year, which was 18.7 to 18.5 this year, and Caitlin Clark absorbed a lot of the team's turnovers being due to her being the main ball handler, which this obviously needs to be improved, but statistically it does not hurt the team compared to last season. As far as defense goes, Angel is obviously the better defender. She averages more steals per game, but only half Caitlin's blocks, and she is a fantastic high post defender. However, she is not a rim protector, and at times has gotten games where she has been abused in the paint and forced to defend the low post, as you saw last night versus the Seattle Storm. With that being said, she is more of a responsibility on the defensive end than Caitlin does to the Fever, which is why the Sky are a better defensive team. So this point obviously goes to Angel. With that taken into account though, Caitlin obviously has a bigger positive impact on her team as a whole than Angel up to this point. Obviously neither of them are entirely responsible for their whole team stat differential compared to last year, but if you want to see them not be an active detriment, then Angel is obviously with her shooting. Angel might be the best offensive rebounder the game has ever seen, grabbing an impressive 4.9 a game, and even with a lot of these being her own missed shots, you cannot admit that rebounding is the strongest and brightest part of her game. But with that, Clark is still the more impacting player. When voting for the Rookie of the Year or the MVP, I would hope that whoever are the voters this year looks at the league's game plan for them, also known as the scouting report. Caitlin is not the best player in the WNBA by any means yet, but she is undoubtedly at the top of every single scouting report before tip-off. She gets face guarded at half court, double teamed on every single drive, and in some cases she is somebody pressing her from 93 feet out, and it has been this way since college. And yet she is putting up 16, 6, and 7 on the year, which is a stat line that has never been done in NBA history. Not only that, Caitlin Clark up to this point has generated more points than any player in the WNBA WNBA, and if she stays healthy, she'll generate the most points in a single season in WNBA history. She is also on track to challenge the overall assist record. Right now, the highest career average is 6.9 by Courtney Vandersloot. After this season, Clark will be at the top of the list, and I can honestly see her averaging closer to 10 assists a game when the season is over. The next thing I want to talk about is the media. So there has been terrible, and when I say terrible takes by quote-unquote professional WNBA media members to bring up things that have never been relevant to Rookie of the Year race in order to favor Angel. That includes one of the biggest WNBA voices on First Take, Monica McNutt. So on Friday, the Sky beat the Seattle Storm and jumped over the Fever in the standings, and all of a sudden Monica McNutt hopped on First Take the next morning and said that her Rookie of the Year will be the one that has the better record. This is not the MVP race. If you look at the NBA Rookie of the Year last year, Chet Holmgren had the first seed while Victor was 13th out of 15th place in the West, and yet Victor won the Rookie of the Year unanimously. Since then, the Fever reclaimed the top spot over the Sky after a win against the #1 team in the WNBA when Caitlin Clark had the very first triple-double by a rookie in WNBA history. Yet not a word for Monica McNutt. Keep in mind that this lady has an actual vote for one of these things. This is just the tip of the iceberg. There has been so many hit think pieces that were thrown out, including a viral WNBA space on the official WNBA page, keep in mind, that use outfits as a point to why Angel should win Rookie of the Year over Caitlin. And I'm not trolling with that either. Here's a clip.
What I said, Angel Reese is my Rookie of the Year. Like I said, she's doing phenomenal things. Simple as that. She that girl on and off the court. Y'all see those fits and her energy. She's just her.
With all things considered for the Rookie of the Year race, it has in fact become more competitive, and Angel Reese is a fantastic candidate. I honestly think that she would win Rookie of the Year most other years, but not this one. Caitlin's higher usage rate along with substantially greater defensive pressure, and yet still being able to control the pace of the game, that should be enough to win Rookie of the Year. I would honestly take it a step further and point out the fact that she has poor coaching and she is still exceeding expectations. It should be unanimous. Now that is going to wrap up this video. All things considered, this is probably my best video, and I saw y'all comments on the last video. I fixed my mic quality, so it's only going to go up from here. Let me know if this video has changed your perspective on this race, if you were a fan of Angel Reese, and if you are already leaning towards Caitlin. I hope that this video reaffirms it. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and of course, until next time, peace out.